recorded interview, and he hasn't been on my show since last July, so he hasn't. But I'm really happy to welcome back to Out of the Bag, Professor George Lees. Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm here, and I'm delighted to be back talking to you again, Sean. Those are the most powerful videos that I've ever produced in my life, and the revelations about religion and your capacity to absorb and remember everything that we talked about. It's absolutely amazing. And you told me yesterday on the message that Higgins is still in charge in Ireland.
Well, I didn't say he was in charge. He's still the president.
Yeah, he's still in office.
The president is the one signing all everything into laws, etc. But there is no government at the moment. We do have a pretender called Leo Varadkar, who was the Taoiseach but wasn't voted in this time, is still acting as such. Very, very strange things going on here in Ireland.
Yeah, so everything is turned on its head now, and the whole of the world is chaotic because Boris is descended from Adolf Hitler.
Go on, George, explain to me.
So Boris's real name, he's a German. I will not use the word Nazi. It sometimes causes offence. There's his pictures. Yeah, with that Aryan blonde hairdo. His real name is Alexander, the first papal popes, Boris de Pfeffel Johnson. He's not Boris Johnson, he's a Pfeffel. It is the links to the Pied Pipers of Hamelin and leading your country into war. And the fact that he descends from Adolf Hitler is exactly the same as everything that we've told you, that Adolf Hitler is the cousin of Rothschild, the full cousin. You remember Greg Hallett and James Henry Fetzer being surprised by those revelations that the Rothschilds are the fathers of all of the people that run us into the wars for profit. There are Hitler's relatives' names. That is Clara Polzel, resides in Spittal in Germany, actually Austria, sorry. That's Branau am Inn, that is Pope Benedict's birthplace, and that is the Am Ibs River Valley, where the Rothschilds actually executed the Archduke, took over his hunting lodge, and all of it is the Rothschilds' power base. They own the whole world.
Right. So Boris Johnson, the Bullingon boy, you know, he's a Pfeffel.
Yeah.
So that's a direct link to Adolf Hitler.
Yes, there's a fascinating website. I'll have to look it up again, but it's all published on the. Very briefly, there's a citation of what the book is that it came from, and it's very, very revealing. You remember the Chequers comedian that died, Chegger?
Oh, Keith Chegwin.
Yeah, so he's from those Germanian families too. Yeah,
Boris Johnson's brother. I mean, he's MI6.
Yeah, that's right. He's Intel and always has been. He will be drawing down 2 salaries because he's a journalist too. And I've got listings now of all the journalists. Many of them have had to resign in recent weeks because they are still using the families that were used as the leaders in the war.
Right.
Yeah, that is Gurchev was one of the leaders in Eastern Europe, and his look-alike and sound-alike is he's just resigned, and there's another massive scandal. So the head of BBC news release on anything political was Robinson. He used to talk on Radio 4 in the mornings. They've now replaced him with a woman who is trained. She's also German, but she's got Italian roots too. Her name is let me get the pages on the.
And this is quite amazing stuff, really.
well, so her name is, she's on a salary of, I think it's $1 million a year, but I'd need to find
Surprised that all these journalists had to ditch their jobs, had to walk away, and what, in case they were revealed as being what?
Yeah, so she's Laura Kuenssberg, and it would be, let me just do the Boris story first.
Sure, okay.
And it's, I don't know how they did it, but I posted two, normal length, over an hour videos on Boris's linkage to Pfeffel, and they did not turn up on YouTube, even although it looked as if they had been accepted on YouTube. Sorry, they were accepted on YouTube, but I posted them on Facebook, and that never happened. So the videos never appeared, but there are now the pictures that I was using to promote those videos, and only this weekend did I discover that. That was about 3 weeks ago, and all of it was at the same time as I was explaining that the Queen of England was coronated in 1937, and that is the launch that year of a company called the BBC to be her propagandists. So that is the launch when I explained and used the title The Coronation Year. That is the launch of the coronavirus. Aren't they clever?
Yeah, using the corona and the corona.
Yeah, absolutely sophisticated Aryan blondes. So there is the story of Sarin. Yeah, that is one of the massive nerve gases. The founders of the production of Sarin are the families that are the leading families in Europe, picked by the Rothschilds, and that is Bernhard the Nazi, was the man who got the contract from IG Farben to produce the nerve gases to kill millions of Jews, which they pretend to be, so that they can accuse people of anti-Semitic post-war crimes. That is Bernhard's speciality, working as a neighbour in Holland, in Northern Europe. He changed from being a German. His family is of Lip Biesterfield, and it's absolutely huge. Jonathan Aitken was one of his bastard children, and that is the conservative scams in Britain, like Boris. Okay, so David Pepper, intelligent official, the descent of Adolf Hitler from the Pfeffer family tree, that's spelt Pfeffer, and Alexander Boris de Pfeffel, all of it is the stories about the Pied Piper, yeah, and leading your families, yeah, like rats to their deaths in the war. It's really humorous if you're a Bullingon boy.
Yeah, they find it funny, don't they?
Yeah, that's it. And there's the Ministry of Defence and everything that is happening. The man that is at the Ministry of Defence is also of German descent. I forget what his name is. I'd have to look that up on the other. But if you look up the head of the MOD, he's a German too. That is the head of the production of those gas weapons right into the 1960s, and that the families that live with me in Kelso, yeah, and have sold fishing tackle for years, their children worked at Porton Down, where one of the big priorities was to get the nerve gases more effective than they were when World War II ended. That is right into the 70s and 80s. Yeah, that is Sarin, and I used to work on those things in Hertfordshire, right in the Rothschild laboratory that was Rothamsted. Yeah,
It is incredible, George. I mean, can you imagine these people who wave their Union Jacks and think they're being British,
yeah.
and English, and all they're doing is waving the flags of pirates from Germany.
Well,
Really outrageous.
when you get to look at the listings of the families, when you've got the actual sourced material, but that's why I'm so riled up by what they've done on Facebook, because I thought that I had cited all of that.
Yeah, well, don't get too messed up with that, George. I was actually blocked off Facebook, couldn't even sign in quite a few times over the last few months. They are clamping down on anyone trying to tell the truth, and obviously a show like this, or whatever you're doing as well on your YouTube channel, etc., George, they don't like it, do they?
Yeah, so I think what I'll do is I'll talk to you about Lily Allen, but I will not show any pictures on the internet today in case...
Anyway.
What was that?
This is audio anyway, so we can't see the picture.
Well, that's right, yeah. But that's why I sent you the stuff yesterday, so you could relate to what has been banned by them. She gets $20 million a year. Sorry, her net worth is 20 million US dollars. And all she does is make trivial videos and cartoons. Let me see if I can. There is the thing that I'm not going to point the camera at now. It's got the crooked politicians that are in this region that have given me death threats. That is the councillor for Jedburgh who trained with me on how to prepare for elected political office. His name is Rory Stewart, and if you're wide awake, you will have heard in the last 2 weeks or months that Rory Stewart wants to stand to be the London mayor. That is a different one. He was the governor in Tony Blair's invasion of Iraq.
All right, just the same name then.
Yeah, so that's how they obfuscate the names. The governor for Jedburgh is Rory Stewart. He physically prevented me from asking more than one question in the meetings that had about 120 visitors in the town of Heaton. And all of that is then the launch of the writs from Wadsden Manor, from Hannah Mary Rothschild, on me harassing her as a war criminal. And at the bottom of the censored image on the Lily Allen videos, I have Hannah Mary Rothschild's director numbers in the Iraq War, and the statement, in the memory of those who lost their lives, their families or loved ones in war. And James Blunt used to sing the song. He's now switched it from the Iraqi death scene with all of the dead man's boots and the dead babies that are on the thumbnail of the banned videos, because there's a picture of Lily Allen, the billionaire, on the front page, riding on the zebra which takes the Rothschilds' cart to war. And the other picture is of David Cameron, Jeremy Corbyn, and I forget what the Labour leader that lives in Edinburgh, Brown, with their poppy wreaths at the cenotaph. Sad bastards. And that is the sack. Peter Mandelson is also in the picture. There's a picture of Portillo, and there's a picture of the now forgotten Kurdish man that was the war criminal that reported the Kurdish war crimes, and he has millions of pounds in his directorates as a Kurdish war criminal. That is Nadim Zahawi. His story and all of his pictures have been taken off my website everywhere where they were planted, with the explanations and the business register story, and that's why he's been disappeared. Do you understand Mandelson now?
How do you mean, do I understand Mandelson?
Peter Mandelson, Hannah Mary Rothschild, the war criminal's hero, is lauded by her in her notorious... she's talking to a journalist, and she talks at the London Film Festival about how Mandelson is her favourite politician, and he's got lots of get up and go. That is a cover for the founding of the Federal Bank in America at the beginning of World War I, or right in the middle of World War I, in Woodrow Wilson's period when they had to go to war. The real name of so Mandelson is now her hero, which gets him onto the Committee of 300 as one of the world's billionaires as agents for Rothschild. But the name Mandelson is absolutely notorious. You remember the Federal Bank steal, before which they had to sink the Titanic? Yeah, that is right in the middle of World War I. Mandel House is the man that was on the committee with all of those Germans that swept across border control into America and took over the Federal Bank. They are still an official secret. Since 1916. And that was done on Christmas Day in the morning so that they can have a laugh at everything that is Brexit. You remember me telling you that Brexit is just the braying Italian donkey, and X is the birth certificate signature for that non-existent creature. And Lily Allen is in the videos that I dare not show you, the pictures rather, that I sent you last night.
Why Lily Allen? There are so many people out there doing stuff. But is she doing these political satirical cartoons? Is that it?
Yeah, she and her brothers and her children are now. She is the goddaughter of Harry Enfield, and you've heard of him before in my attempts to get attention to why my videos get blocked. He is actually related to my feudal duchess, the Duchess of Roxburgh, and that is the Cholmondeley Warner families that were active in Britain and in Holland during the Glorious Revolution, when they were stealing the country, the banks and the kingdom. That is the Germans that came from Hanover, took over the throne in 1714, when all of us were looking at the statistics on the death of the families that were fighting in the Jacobite wars. Yeah, that is the French Freemasons participating at the same time in the stealing of England, and that is the steal that launched all of those George I to George IV kings into Ireland in the massive... what was the one that did... what was the revolution in Ireland, the leader that was so notorious in Cromwell's day? He was a German, and that was King Billy was the nickname for him.
Okay, what, William of Orange?
Yeah, that's it. So he did huge amounts of damage and pillaged Ireland entirely, and Cromwell was the first man to lead that as the Chancellor of Oxford University, and that is Cromwell. I think that was the 13th century. Is it as far back as that?
I'm not very good at the history. I mean, I go back as far as 1150.
But can you remember making a video with me and John Patterson?
I do.
Yeah, and we've got the archive for that is bizarrely on the archive for the Houses of Parliament.
Okay. I just want to at this point tell my listeners, do please check out from last July 2019 and prior to that maybe about 10 or 20 interviews with George. Check out www.outofthebaggradio.weebly.com /podcasts. or even just put George's name in the Google link in the homepage, and you'll find all the shows. And they've been incredible, haven't they?
Yeah, it's the most productive period in my life, except for those buzz and hum videos. But you were my greatest hero at that time, because even the buzzy ones you listened to from beginning to end, and I've now attempted to improve those by putting captions and text at the bottom so that the world can see what I was actually saying instead of it humming all the time.
But just you mentioned Cromwell and Ireland and the links with Britain and all the rest of it. Last week's show, so basically last week's Out of the Bag, I had a brilliant guy, Jimmy Fury, talking about Ireland 1845 to 1850, the perfect Holocaust, and who kept it perfect.
Yeah.
The absolute degradation and the killing, the murder, the depopulation of the Irish people by the English. It was incredible.
And is that the potato famine story too?
It's the truth of the potato famine.
All right. So yeah, it's absolutely amazing how treasonous the people are. If you're an aristocrat, you just want to get rid of the hungry eaters. And that is the whole story that they have to cover up. That is the whole of the world turned upside down at the end of World War One. And again at the end of World War II, and all of the leaders were appointed and picked and sired by the Rothschild family. That is why I'm so determined to get that story told before I die, like Greg Hallett has already done. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got to say to people, there is a Greg Hallett out there speaking on behalf of Greg Hallett, if he's the real Greg Hallett.
He used to talk to me. And then he sent me, even since I came to Coldstream, he has sent me death threats on Facebook.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that is the Greg Hallett that I used to talk to regularly, that explained to me all of the royal scams, the meaning of the word FUCK. That is the launch of the royal brothels for profit, fornication under consent of the king. That was Greg Hallett, the Kiwi man, who was given £100,000 to get his book published, and he was then done away with by the syndicate that includes, sadly, I believe Jim Fetzer is part of the syndicate. He's not been on the social media. He's very, very reluctant to talk to me. He's in the Palatinate, out of the Palatinate in Germany and Alsace, that is the Swiss Alps. Yeah, and all of his friends, the Dietrich women, have this week pulled out of his friendship list. Yeah, which means that I cannot any longer talk to them. That is Marlena's relatives, and it's absolutely stinking. And all of it is covered by the trivial woman that is Lily Allen. She is the love child of Harry Enfield. Yeah, and they've attempted to tell other stories on the internet that there's another love parent who's an American, just to cover up the fact that he is the one that made all of those videos on the Nazis and all of the super polite and aristocratic behaviours that when they invent the swastika, they go hip hip hooray. Yeah, and all of it is the exact things that get all of the videos that have been banned on Enfield have got the references to Lord Jacob Rothschild's steal of the Bank of International Settlements in Switzerland, in Basel. And that is the biggest steal in banking history, with the possible exception of what happened in the middle of World War One. So do you now understand it? Mandelson's a billionaire because he's been chosen as the agent for Rothschild. That's why he's on the committee of 300 with all of the British royals except Fergie, who's not popular now because she was her husband was in New York the day that they brought down the Twin Towers.
Right.
Yeah, and that is everything that they live for. That allowed them to sack Iraq, and that is the war crimes of Rothschild, with Mandelson and the Kurdish traitor that is Nahim Zahawi running the wars, with Rory Stewart, who wants to be the London mayor because Boris Johnson used to be that. That's how they obfuscate all of the repeating stories. And Max Clifford was the man that was appointed as an MI6 leader to absolutely deliberately publish the book that had many, many pages missing, that was published with the pages in the wrong order. And can you remember Jim Fetzer learning that when Greg Hallett told him it? That is the cover. That is he's now alleged to be dead. The man that published the book, Max Clifford.
That's the big journalist in various ranks around it.
Yeah, but he passed on when I started to publish the stories, and Greg Hallett used to tell us that everybody that was in the stories is a name alike. So that is Max Clifford. James Hewitt is the father of the Earl. He's married to the Earl of Holmes' daughters, and his estates in Ireland are in Lifford. Yeah, and that is, I can remember Greg Hallett sitting talking to the spellbound Jim Fetzer about how simple that was and how it could never ever happen. But that was Max Clifford that screwed up. I will not use the F word. Yeah, in case we get banned. That is Max Clifford that was the bane of Greg Hallett's life. And the woman that is there was a practicing witch in the story, and she became my Facebook friend for 3 days, and then she gave me death threats too.
Really?
Yeah, you'll have to look her up. She's claiming to be a Howard of Norfolk, but she is de Mello of France. Yeah, and that is the practicing witch, and she is the one that doped up Greg Hallett. And all of those stories by the real Greg Hallett that used to take an hour and a half, and there was a part 1 and part 2 with Jim Fetzer and with Red Ice Radio in, I think it was Denmark. Yeah. All of those stories were absolutely spellbinding. All of the pictures were there as proof, which is why I would like to show you Lily Allen sitting on the zebra. But if I do that, she will get a pay rise from the folk that brutalised Iraq. Yeah, and on the picture is Tony Blair with the burning bomb dropping behind him on the desert, and they've got the poppy wreaths. David Cameron, the head of Labour as was, and now what is happening is the head of Labour that resigned recently, he was the Episcopalian vicar from my hometown. And that has all been published on YouTube. If you look at my recent YouTube videos, you'll see that the reverend man called King replaced the deputy head of Labour, who's alleged to have resigned since I published the video showing that the deputy head of Labour is the Episcopalian vicar in Kelso. He pretended to be, I forget what the name was for the deputy head, but he pretended to be the boss, yeah, or the deputy for Corbyn. And Corbyn is standing there with the poppy wreaths that Tony Blair is, Cameron is holding to his right, and that is the brutalisation of Iraq in the memory of those who lost their lives, their families or loved ones in war. Hannah Mary Rothschild, who I used to harass when I showed her the pictures of the people that are the covers for Rory Stewart, that was the governor for the war in Iraq and wants to be obfuscated by using the London mayor name. Yeah, and that is Rory Stewart the geek. All of them are from Cheshire and the north of England, who were given massive mansions to be the rebellion in the Glorious Revolution, to get rid of the Catholics and to replace them with Protestants. And because they fear the gods, they used to have their chapels in the basement of their massive mansions. You should see Rory Stewart the geek's mansions. Yeah, it's absolutely sordid. So let me get you some facts. There is Lily Allen's brother, Alfie.
So where does Keith Allen fit in? I mean, surely Keith Allen is her dad.
Yeah, I think the dad was cuckolded because Harry Enfield came to live with them, and that is the
Okay.
yeah. So that is why they call him the Godfather, and I believe that he will be the biological father. But that's just a conspiracy theory. And Lily has already made, her net worth is $20 million. The brother is worth, let me see, let me find the things that I opened up yesterday. Sorry, I'll just put my camera down. And so there is Harry Enfield's story. Sorry, it's taken ages to open.
Okay. Well, look, I mean, in your last video, I know you mentioned David Dimbleby and saying brides in London and various other things as well. I didn't catch all of it.
So have you seen, you remember Dimbleby resigned because Boris called him a Bullingon boy. Yeah, he pointed his finger at Boris and said, "You're a Bullingon boy," and Boris immediately stood up, tried to grab him by the shirt, and he said, "You, for 2 generations, are Bullingon boys." And remember, we found him on a family tree that was part of the Irish violence somewhere.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the family tree was, but it was quite stunning for both of us to find him there. And now he's been replaced by Fiona Bruce, and she has nobody on her family trees.
Right.
Yeah, it's all treasonous people, and that is what the Germans are trying to do now. So Kuenssberg has come across, and her father was a medical doctor. She's taken over as head as the BBC News. She is worth £2 million already. She's only been in office for 6 months. I've seen her several times in the borders, skinny looking blonde wench. Yeah,
Okay.
and she travels around, talks to the Borders Council, presents the news of an evening. Her dad was an expert on viral pandemics.
That's interesting, isn't it?
It's really coincidental, don't you think? So that is Kuenssberg, and I've got a massive part of my family trees on her. But let me get Harry Enfield out of the way first. For that time, the family lived with, that is the Lily Allen family, lived with comedian Harry Enfield while her mother dated him. The Clash singer and guitarist Joe Strummer was close to Allen too. Yeah, Allen attended, wait for this is the Yankee Billionaire, that's Yankee dollars, 20 million of them. Allen attended 13 schools, including Prince Charles's junior alma mater, Hill House School, Millfield, Bidale's School, and was expelled from several of them for drinking and smoking. That's the Harry Enfield we know so well. Yeah, in the Arsenal or Liverpool jerseys, taking the piss out of the God that created him. When Allen was 11, former University of Victoria student Rachel Santesso overheard Alan singing Wonderwall by Oasis. You remember Oasis coming up in the stories about the history of religion?
Yes.
And Madonna sitting on the singer's lap as both of them showed us that she was showing off her piezo vagina, which is the meaning of piezo in translation from Italian to English. Yeah, that is the American pie joke, which is why the Wonderwall singers were sitting on her fania. Nicknames, all of them, for the Bible author Arius Piso, and that is the flowers joke right through world history. It's amazing how many agents for those families there are. Yeah? It's absolutely amazing how close that is, and I can explain it in later videos unless they start behaving properly. Right then, so what did I promise to show you? So let's find Alfie. Yeah, he's in the Game of Thrones, and that is a massive joke. All of the aristocratic families have become actors, and they want you to know that they're still prepared to cut your head off so that their dynasty can return to power. That is the Plantagenet movies that have been made with beautiful music on them. And there is Alfie Evan Allen, born 11 September 1986, age 33, Hammersmith, London, alma mater of St John's College and the Fine Arts College. Can you imagine Harry Enfield and his comedic stuff going down well in a classy college like that? Yeah, this one's known for the Game of Thrones and playing the role of John Wick. He's a billionaire too. And let me see how much he's worth.
Maybe I'm one of the only people that have never seen Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I think he was worth 6 or 7 million when I looked at it last night. But it's not really as big. Let me find that Kuenssberg woman now and show you the whole of the Nazi story as Boris tries to repeat what they did when George I came across and then swept into Ireland and massacred your people in the name of the glorious Orange Revolution. Yeah, it's absolutely horrendous that they can get away with it at that time, but they're trying to do it again, which is why Boris has done what he's done recently. And let me find that woman. She is in...
And before the end of the show, maybe you can give me your views on coronavirus as well and all the rest of it, the pandemic, the lockdown.
Well, it's just let's lock them up and let them not mix with each other and let them not be able to. So if you look on my Facebook posts, you'll see, or on my YouTube channel, you'll see that the videos that were made before the coronavirus broke out were on the history of the BBC and the history of the Windsors on the throne, who are actually Nazis. Prince Philip's sister died in a plane crash in 1937 when they were attending the Nazi funeral of his sister. She is Cecily, and that is the cover for the massive islands that are Thessaly, and that is the movie that is one of my favourites about the gods being robbed blind by the humans that are the black nobility, that are the fleecing families. That is Jason and the Argonauts, and that is Jah's son. That is the Christian movement. Yeah, it's absolutely sinister,
Great movie is that?
Yeah, it's absolutely romantic and beautiful, and it's amazing how long I've been a fan of that. I think it was made in 1965 or something like that.
Nice.
And all the actors in it are legends in their own lifetime, and it's quite humorous. I think I've told you before, but the man who played the god Zeus was a McGuinness of Ireland. That is the Insus joke on Jesus' cross, and that is Lily Allen's videos, which I tried to send to you last night so you could get the massive perspective of what they make their copywriting fortune from. That is Lily Allen going into orbit on the cross with Jesus leading her on the road circulating around the earth. That is Lily Allen, the dimwit, that is worth $20 million, and those are the images that are on the banned reason why my videos cannot be published, showing her taking the piss out of Jesus who never lived. She knows that, and that is why I sent you the video last night. Now that you know it's so important, I'd love you to look it up. Look up Lily Allen's air balloon. You will see the Rothschild zebras that lead them into every war for profit, to keep the numbers of the ordinary people down, and you will see that Jesus is still circulating around the earth on his cross, like Lily Allen is just behind him. Yeah.
And the meaning of the zebra, is that just the black and white, just the checkered border?
No, it's the wild ass, and that is the ass that is Jesus in the Brexit story, the braying Italian donkey. If you watch the Godfather movie, look up bray like a donkey. That is Vincenzo, the son of the Godfather. His sister gets gunned down by the assassin on the I think it was at a church or a theatre when they were coming out, and Al Pacino has to allow her to die on his knees as she's bleeding through the chest. That they went to watch the Cavalier Rusticana. That is the same joke as Lily Allen. That is the Cavalier Rusticana with the rusty nails on his cross. All of them have become billionaires from parodying the biggest fraud in world history. And the same for the pythons, and the gods get them for that in the end. That is the funeral of what was the actor that died that was in Bill Paxton. He had a massive funeral just after they had buried Carrie Fisher and her mum, and everybody that went to that were the Monty Python's team, all of them were in wheelchairs, and I tried to publish it, but they would not allow it to be published, and that is Jennifer Aniston's tearful speeches. Remember what role she plays?
What, in Friends?
Yeah, she's directly descended from Arius Piso, like Christopher Martin and the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, Aniston was his nickname. And they are the founders of the secret societies in Scotland that are the Bannatyne Club, and they are in the Bannatyne Club, and those are the people that jailed me for revealing the Cross Keys icon being the Vatican icon, and that is the Ballantynes that were my best friends. Yet they own the Cross Keys. They take the piss out of the God that created them by pretending that, and that is the families, the Episcopalian Church, which provided the fake deputy head of Labour. No one has actually complained about me publishing that story, even although it's been published for 6 months now. Yeah, that is the Episcopalian Church in my hometown, which is one of the most beautiful churches I've ever visited. I've been to Notre Dame, and remember the day that we talked about Notre Dame, it burnt down the following day. That is the bridge collapse in America, and all of the stories that we told. Notre Dame was touched the following day. It's all just a massive syndicate, and all of them that are billionaires. There are pictures of Alan with his Game of Thrones co-stars, Maisie Williams, Sophie Turner, Richard Madden. All of them are millionaires as buffoons. Yeah? Shall we stop there? It's great that you're talking to me again. What else have I said in the introduction or the lead up? No, let me get you the Kuenssberg woman.
You carry on, George. Whatever you want to do next, we can do, okay?
Well, yeah, she's absolutely evil, and that is the replacement by the BBC. The BBC story and the launch of that when Queenie was coronated in 1937, that is when the BBC were created to be the propagandists for the Nazis from Hesse-Kassel,
and they still are.
like David Attenborough. And I've got a new Facebook friend, and she's a real enthusiast. And can you remember when they tried to escape on the bus? That they'd just gotten out the camp, and David Attenborough was in his posh gear carrying a briefcase through Germany, and they tried to get on a bus by speaking German. And just as they stepped up the step, the man said, "Good luck," and he said, "Thank you." And then all of a sudden he remembered that he was supposed to have said "Danke schön," but that is Herr Bartlett. My new Facebook friend is Jean Bartlett. Yeah, and
that's the film, The Great Escape.
Yeah, that's it. And I've made umpteen versions of that now, and all of the families that are in it, they have body doubles in Coldstream, and it's absolutely uncanny. I now believe that there is a massive Star Wars team, and many, because I'm one of their most hated revelations, they are determined to top me, and that is it right through the whole of the Borders region. And when I show them the video, they cannot believe that their mate in Coldstream is his name is Whitey, and that is the cover for the Duke of Westminster's middle name. That is, he's a character in The Great Escape, and his name is Cavendish. That is the middle name of Gerald Cavendish Grosvenor, and he's a war criminal too. And his wife is a Natalia, and she is actually descended from the Russian Tsars that were topped and replaced, in Russia, by the people that have been chosen and married to the Rothschild family. That is Britain's richest man. He's pretending that he's passed on. I've met him several times, and he still gloats. He used to take me to his casino in Dundee. After he had passed on. He's called Ken Hosey in that fantasy, and that is the cover for the divorced husband of the former Secretary of State for Scottish Health, that is Shona Robinson. All of them are the mafia, and all of them are connected to the ancient fatherland, like this woman that I'm going to tell you about now. Kuenssberg. Can you hear the sirens?
Yes, just...
That's the police travelling through Coldstream High Street. That is named after Arius Piso II.
You must need their donuts.
Right then, so let me see if I can find... she's Laura, that should be easy to find. Laura.
Okay, so what are you looking for at the moment? Laura who?
She's Laura Kuenssberg. She's now the boss at Political Broadcasting BBC. And here she is. Okay. Sorry, I will not point my camera at her. There she is, Laura Kuenssberg, political editor, yeah, with a very sinister look on her face. If I were to point my camera at her, she gets 2 million a year. There is political editor at BBC.
That's an interesting position, isn't it? Political editor.
Yeah. She was launched this year as BBC political analyst as soon as I left Dundee, and she was in the St Boswell's bus. That is where the local council who tried to section me have their headquarters. She got on the bus outside their building. Yeah, and there is Boris and Cameron pretending to be boxing. There is James Kelly, that is Laura Kuenssberg's husband, but you have to guess at that, because what they do in their news releases is to put pictures of the vicar that used to be the deputy of Labour before he resigned, when I made the video on him being a vicar at the Episcopalian Church. And his name is King, and that is the deputy head of Labour as Jeremy Corbyn continues in his role. And there is a picture of the man we just talked about, David Attenborough, who went to Davos this year, and I covered that in the video and showed you all of how they and the World Wildlife Fund had taken over the whole of Africa, and how Prince William had been pictured with dead buffaloes. Not Prince Harry had been pictured with the pictures of dead buffaloes when his grandpa, Prince Phillip, had killed the dead tigers. And because you don't publish the pictures, that was not available to you. But there is Attenborough talking to Laura Kuenssberg. That's spelled, so you can look it up for yourself, Kuenss in the middle, Berg, B-R-E-R-G. That means castle. Yeah, that is that is the Berg stories in The Usual Suspects, and all of it is the repeating story that every time someone gets defeated in the war, they send people to death camps or to prisoner of war camps, then they escape, or the war ends, then they become the spies. And I've now got a comprehensive listing. So Gurdjieff was told about us by a man called Greg Hallett, and let me tell you what Greg Hallett told us about him. That is Gurdjieff, that is a BBC newsreader now. Yeah, and
what did Greg Hallett write about him?
The history of his tyrannical massacres and things as a replay. Let me get it and let me read some of it out. There is John Pienaar, who's a dead ringer for Gurdjieff. There is the picture of Gurdjieff at the top, leaving the Matrix, and there, let me find the Hallett. So this is the World of Truth. Gurdjieff teaches Stalin and Hitler, yeah, and that is true crime-solving series, The World of Truth. Remember that no one can get those videos, yeah, unless you're prepared to go to St James's Place, which is the hub for Rothschild's shareholdings. That is where the book was being sold from at this time. Yeah, and all of it is being destroyed systematically by the Rothschilds, who have done away with and replaced the Greg Hallett I knew and used to talk to on Skype. And the new one is now taking my pictures that I made from Greg Hallett's revelations off my website because it's embarrassing, yeah, that the stories are still being told, even although the author who told me them has been removed. Yeah.
How do you feel, George? I mean, you've had plenty of death threats and Phillip, you hanging over your head. How are you? Are you okay with all that?
Absolutely, I've never been stronger, and this morning the powers that be are swarming all around the town, but they know that they will never shut me the fuck up. And the more you release, the more powerful you come. So the man that is the owner of the oil wealth in the Middle East, he's actually listened to me preparing videos this morning on the topic of James Stewart and the love affairs that mean that Princess Diana, she's also the daughter of James Goldsmith, and they just sat in the same room that I'm sitting in now and listened to it. He's a dead ringer for the owner of the Royal Dutch Shell oil wealth that was taken and given to Queenie in the Middle East. And all of it is a parody of the Bible, and the name of their company in the Middle East that is now the oil riches that Tony Blair went there to get is part of the Lion's Den story. Who was the man that had to go into the cave that had the lions in it? It's in the Bible. I can't remember the story, but that is the naming of the oil company that this man is the boss of. So he was sat listening to me rehearsing what I was going to say this morning. And it's my landlord in the pub is a kind of distant relative of mine, and he's a really nice guy, and he can see the corruption that is absolutely killing the Scottish borders. But that's why I sent you that picture last night, because the people that are running for power are just actors. Yeah, that is John Lamont, that has 130 directorates, yeah, and he interlocks with the Duke of Buccleuch, that was the funder of the Glorious Revolution. When they got to London, they disappeared with the cash, and that happened in Pimlico or somewhere, because it's got the letters P and I at the beginning, for Piso and the Polis. Yeah, and that is the Queen's cousin in Dalkeith, from Hesse-Cassel, like the leader of the World Wildlife Fund, that is Attenborough, in the pictures with Kuenssberg. And I've now got her, so let me tell you some more.
Okay. Please do.
So there is the coronavirus launch, and there is Laura Kuenssberg. Dad is a medical government interface specialist in health crises. That is Laura Kuenssberg. Her father is an interface specialist in a health crisis. Let me get you his name, just in case we forget it. Ekkehard von Kuenssberg. That is the name of the dad that is an expert in pandemics. Yeah, and she's only been in office for 6 months, and during that 6 months I made the videos on the launch of the BBC and the launch of the Nazis into the Deutsche Dunst club that believes that Germany will never fail to win a war if it enters into one, which is why Boris is intent on doing it. I don't know whether or not he's got the pluck to do another Holocaust, but none of it would surprise me. There is no greater prize, and that is what Lord Jacob Rothschild's life is all about. Okay, so there. Oh,
I need to ask you as well. I'm watching what's happening on on this global world stage, and suddenly we've got a guy who made billions with Microsoft, leaving Microsoft, being very heavily involved with pharmaceutical companies, and now this nerd, this computer nerd, is now a specialist in telling us all what we need in the vaccine.
Yeah,
so
well,
where did Bill Gates fit into all this?
Well, he's packed up because I've revealed that he's Gottsheim of the death camps. That in the Sound of Music is the little goat herd. And when I published that video with all the director numbers and all the nicknames for the families from Germany, like, did I tell you Boris's was? Pfeffel.
Pfeffel, yeah.
Yeah, and that is the same. I wish I could find quickly. Let me just scan through what this woman's got on her transcript. She's totally evil.
Yeah. Was Bill Gates totally evil? I mean, he's 1 minute speaking about depopulation, and the next minute he's talking about a vaccine to save everyone. Now, get it straight, mate. You know, which are you doing? Do you want depopulation, or do you want to help people?
Well,
is the vaccine to depopulate?
Some of them have a conscience. I have now got a couple of Forbes rich listers that have been war criminals on my Skype correspondence lists. It's absolutely amazing, but when you remind them that this is the war crimes that your family are associated with, that is, I've now revealed that the boss at Amazon is descended from Stalin.
Right.
Stalin's name is that is the Dugashvili names. That is Keza Dugdale, the former head of Scottish Labour. Yeah, that is. She resigned. I think I've told you this before. She was on my Skype friends list, and when I wrote to her saying, I need to have a meeting with you to discuss that family tree that I've sent to you, she resigned the next day.
Right.
Yeah, that is Amazon. Jeff Bezos, he is Crazy Beso, which was the nickname for Stalin.
Okay. But look, you're saying all these connections and all these generations and generations.
And all of it is in the stories that Greg Hallett was not allowed to tell.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something.
Go on then.
All those families that exist and all those generations and generations, the new generations have a choice. They do not have to continue the bloodshed, the evil, the corruption, the power trip. They don't have to continue it, do they? They could end it all. They could say, I'm Boris Johnson, I don't want any connection with my Pfeffel family, and I'm doing blah 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 for good and that. They could actually do good, couldn't they?
They could, but they've all been trained to do it the way that the predecessors have done it.
Yeah.
And if you look at the list of journalists that are in the team for the BBC, all of them have been massive journalistic income earners. So Boris himself, he was the editor at one of the papers. He used to get 250,000 a year as a journalist when he was the London mayor.
Yes.
And that's why they want the other guys that are in his cabinet now to become the London mayors, because then we will not remember that they were the governor for the brutalisation of Iraq for the oil wealth.
Yeah, incredible.
It's easy to say. You and I were stupid enough to be Catholics, and I still worship the God, but I now realise that Jesus is the wild ass in all of the billionaires' route to power, including Lily Allen's. It's absolutely pathetic. And as a Christian, if you had still been a Christian, I don't know if you still are a Christian, but if you watch Lily Allen and Jesus circulating this earth, on that video I sent you last night, it's called Air Balloon, And it is the whole of the Rothschild joke, the whole of the Godfather joke, wrapped into one huge belly laugh that earns her $20 billion as her net worth.
A million.
Yeah? Million. 20 million. But Bill Gates is way above that, but he's now dropped out almost entirely from the world's dialogue, and that is why Amazon, that Jeff Bezos has divorced his wife. I believe she's a MacDonald or something like that. She's a Scottish name, but his net worth has plummeted, so he's way below his assistant at Amazon now. Because of what I published in that interim period when we had the fallout. Or did I tell you that already?
No, you didn't. No.
So the whole lot of the world health and the banking, wealth. So do you remember that the last medical crisis we had, before Peter Eyre died, all of them told me that there was a massive scandal called Obamacare.
Yeah.
That is the launch of Donald Berwick, who's on the committee of 300 with Peter Mandelson and 12 of the British Royals. Poor Fergie, she's the only one to take the fall. But she's doing okay because she's a Nazi from Argentina.
Yeah, she'll do that.
It's just a... What was I telling you about there? The history of Stalin and his... of Bezos and his divorce. So that is crazy Bezos Dugashvili, and that is the families that are Montefiore, and that is the mountain of fire that is in Naples above the Villa Papyri. All of them descend from the same family, and that is the naming of the police. And when they had to move, what did I tell you about Aristotle Onassis? Can you remember his granny's?
Jackie Onassis.
No, Aristotle Onassis' granny. You remember we both ended up almost breaking our sides in laughter when I told you what our name was on the family tree.
Go on, what was it?
Gethsemane.
Okay.
Yeah, that is where they went after they left Rome and Naples. They went to Greece and they became the family under Mount Olympus.
All lead to Rome, don't they, still?
Yeah, it's absolutely stunning, and that is the leading back to Rome is the thing that staggered Jim Fetzer more than anything else I've ever told him. When I told him George W. Bush was 5 cousins away from Queen Victoria on the family tree for Henry VIII, he could not really believe that. And when I told him that the name of the Bush mansion in Maine was Vesuvius, he said, "No, you're wrong. It's Kennybunker." And I said, well, that's been changed on Wikipedia in the last week, if that's what they're telling us now. He said, "Oh no, you're actually right. That is where the Bushes lived. That is the families that are ruling the world. All of their roads lead back to Rome." And it's the same for Queenie and all that massive family tree. And I don't know whether or not there was an Adam and Eve, but their being in the garden is the same joke as the killing of Princess Diana. She died in the Lalma tunnel, which means apple. Shall we stop?
It's entirely up to you. I mean, I booked you for 2 hours, I thought.
How long is that?
That's an hour.
Oh, right, let's...
I tell you what, before we go on, there's a poem that a friend of mine said, if you're interviewing Professor George Lees, will you read him that poem?
Is it ethnic hatred or is it nice?
I don't. It's political, of course.
What is the gender? It's not a wench.
No, it was a guy. It was a bloke.
All right, come on. Let me hear it.
Okay, here's the poem. And the title is "The Warlords Sip Their Tea in Error," is the title.
Okay.
And it goes like this, and I wrote it years ago. The war on terror goes on forever, when it should be never, while warlords sip their tea in error, feeding us their nightmare dreams, allows them to continue with their money-making schemes. Schemes, scams, Iraq, Iran, peacekeeping troops in Afghanistan, innocent civilians being killed every day. They have no rights, they have no say. Children being born with unbelievable mutations, the result of any nation with radiation contamination. Let the world know what is really going on. Talk about it, write about it, put it into song. Show the countries being abused in the name of keeping order are just the pawns in a capitalist game, the American and British disorder. There you go.
Wow, you classy guy.
It's a simple poem, George.
So let me ask you about Gerald Grosvenor. He and his father, that is the Duke of Westminster, he and his father had massive estates in Ireland. They have been taken off Wikipedia now. Can you remember any stories about that? And remember, what was the name of the guy that was alleged to have assassinated Lord Mountbatten?
Was there an alleged? They blamed it on the IRA, didn't they?
No, but it was a leader in the IRA. The pictures are on Greg Hallett's books, and
Oh, okay. I can't remember the name of it.
his lookalike came into my hotel yesterday with the Irish accent, and it's absolutely stunning that everything that I cover, they cover with the doppelganger still. It must cost an absolute fortune.
You know, that's incredible, and I'm sure people listening in are going, what? What are you talking about? Are you telling me that a doppelganger, a clone maybe, of someone else has come into your life because you were talking about him the day before or the week?
Yeah, that's right. He's actually working for the man that is hosting me in a pub in my hometown. There was a man named in the stories. Let me see if I can find that.
Just hope that the stories all portrayed Lord Mountbatten to be the paedophile bastard he was.
Well, no, he was. Yeah, that's right. So he tried to keep his secrets by making love to a man called Prince Charles. And that is all that he was the man that recommended that Queenie become his lover, and he got in return for that executed by them, commissioned through the IRA, like the funding of all of the global troubles. That is the light tube story that Greg Hallett also told the world.
I might have a completely different story, but what I've heard from various sources is that Mountbatten was a paedophile, quite a well-known paedophile, and he messed with the wrong child, a member of a family belonging to a family, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's what I heard, and that's the reason why he got...
Well, it's the same right through the history, and most of it I got from Greg Hallett, and the pictures are absolutely compelling, which is why Max Clifford did not publish them all. Or the book was in the wrong order. Many of the pages were missing, and Jim Fetzer was wowed by all of that. But the stories that are about who was the one that used to point at us and